Hello, my name is Kaylin Lane, and I was hired by a law enforcement agency to analyze two images in which they used for their billboards advertising neighborhood safety in both suburban and urban neighborhoods. The difference between the two neighborhoods is a suburban neighborhood, you see more trees and houses. You may think of a gated community. Whereas urban neighborhoods, you think more of the city life. You see buildings and less trees for one. But you see buildings and street signs. You think about the city life. Whereas it may be noisier compared to suburban neighborhoods. Who knows? When it comes to creating billboards or any type of visual, it is important to consider cultural familiarity in order to convince your audience, in this case, that both suburban and urban neighborhoods are safe. I chose two completely different images, but both speak volumes about neighborhood safety. As you can see above each image, I labeled the type of neighborhood. When creating visuals, it is important to use culturally familiar visuals because, for one, global cultures have an impact on a viewer's respective response. But visual cognitive elements are also triggered, which may include personal experiences, memories, expectations, and projections, selective habits, and emotional engagement. Ferdinand de Saussure was a communication theorist who split how we view communication. In other words, the signifier is the sound, whereas the signified is the concept. The image on the left, you see two kids on bikes talking to an officer, versus the image on the right, where you have a group of children playing hockey in the street. Growing up, I lived in the suburbs, but both images bring back memories for me. For instance, the image on the left of the suburban neighborhood reminds me of when I first got a bike for Christmas. I spent every waking moment and every chance I got outside with my father as he taught me how to ride. Whereas the image on the right of the urban neighborhood reminds me of a childhood game where we would get together to play football or kickball in the street until the sun went down. Urban and suburban viewers may be affected differently based on the different cognitive elements triggered by a visual. For instance, for one viewer it may trigger a personal experience or memory, whereas for another viewer it may trigger an emotional engagement. Emotional engagement can be either positive or negative. As for these two images, urban and suburban viewers may view them differently. Urban viewers may view the suburban image as those who live in the suburbs are rich and wealthy, which isn't always true. But that is because they may be using a metonymic code, meaning viewers make assumptions about signs rather than knowing the facts. Where suburban viewers may view the image on the right as either rich or poor, depending on which part of the city the image takes place in. In this case, they may be using the condensed code, where they combine many codes to create positive messages, because although the image takes place in an urban neighborhood, it does not mean that the children in the photo don't live in a safe and friendly neighborhood. Cultural codes interpret our interpretations of what we learn from birth. They can be imposed from a cultural and social perspective, a specific geographical country perspective, regional perspective, location perspective, or family perspective.